There persists a further constellation of individuals who, having achieved the initial integration of their psyche, commence a new phase of existence. These advanced subjects demonstrate three distinct, undeniable manifestations that succeed the experiences of physiological rejection and intense synchronicity. These new specific indicators are not mere extensions of the first set, but represent the psychological deepening that occurs when the self has truly become the guiding principle. They are energetic realities, observable effects that signify a shift in the individual's fundamental relationship with time, conflict, and the flow of their life's purpose. When the governance of your inner world fully passes from the ego to the self, the effect is akin to having finally transitioned from a boat driven by arbitrary winds to a vessel guided by the deep, consistent currents of the ocean itself, compelling your actions to align with a destiny greater than your conscious planning. The focus of our subsequent examination is the functional, existentially accessible proof of the principles following the initial psychic integration. We examine the palpable alterations that materialize when an individual achieves genuine self-sovereignty. These three next indicators are not abstract metaphysical postulates. They constitute tangible, nearly prophetic phenomena that become apparent within your existential framework. You shall now be instructed on how to recognize them, grasp their etiology, and perceive what they disclose concerning the final structure of the self. For to function from this further position of high vibration is not an act staged for self-aggrandizement. It is rather the pure, unmediated consequence of authentic psychological mastery. It is possible you have already encountered these alterations, perhaps dismissing them as bizarre luck, or even a signal that some unsettling detachment was present. You might have perceived a fundamental alteration in your interaction with external pressure, a shift you were unable to precisely define. This discourse serves as your lexicon. This is the thorough psychological analysis of an advanced vibrational signature, and it clarifies precisely why these three phenomena shall never be reduced to a common enumeration of methods for personal success. They possess too much potency, are too self-evident, and present far too great an obstacle to be utilized in the machinations of the spiritual industry. The fourth sign is existential, and its declaration is subtly transformative. Sign 4. The loss of neurotic urgency. Your temporal experience becomes an unwavering mirror for your stillness. You initiate a psychological expulsion of the future-oriented anxiety that previously dictated your actions. This is not merely a vague sensation of being relaxed. It is a swift and undeniable shift in your internal relationship with the concept of time and outcome. It could manifest as a sudden, liberating capacity to initiate a significant project without the incapacitating fear of failure that formerly paralyzed you. It might be a wave of profound unconcern that washes over you just as you are about to receive news of an outcome you once would have agonized over. Yet every cell in your body now says, whatever unfolds is appropriate. Or perhaps it is a deep, unshakable patience that is emotionally unexplainable, emerging solely when you encounter frustrating delays or obstacles that necessitate you adopting an attitude of surrender rather than force. These are not the typical manifestations of learned coping mechanisms, which frequently represent the desperate cries of an over-controlled ego. This is a state far more integrated. This is your psyche's innate wisdom becoming fully operational. I understood that through profound psychic integration, the self commissions your conscious mind to act as the ultimate trustee of the present moment. Your inner world thus becomes a resonant chamber for a timeless frequency, and it will no longer endure the congestion of manic planning. For an individual who has attained high integration, persistence in a task that demands utter perfectionism, or a goal that necessitates the abandonment of the present, triggers a genuine sense of meaninglessness. Your consciousness ceases to react simply to external pressure. It commences reaction against temporal betrayal. Have you ever experienced such a sensation? That instant, you attempt to force your way through a schedule out of fear or obligation, and your entire being simply recoils. It is as if your inner clock initiates a deliberate protest before your conscious intellect can even commence rationalizing the frantic pace. This is the phenomenon of loss of neurotic urgency. Your energetic signature has become so finely tuned that it is no longer capable of metabolizing frantic effort. The distinction here is critical. Anxiety finds expression in the body due to the internal fragmentation of the past and future. Loss of neurotic urgency, conversely, originates from wholeness. It springs from a bond between the self and time so absolute that your conscious mind actively defends your presence. It assumes the role of the ultimate enforcer of your inner peace. When that coherence is jeopardized, the inner movement slows instantly. Those who exhibit this sign discover they can no longer commit to even a minor endeavor without a clarity of purpose beyond mere survival. They find themselves incapable of remaining in situations where incessant activity is the prevalent currency without feeling existentially disconnected. Their inner stillness actively compels them toward presence. It is no longer merely a moral aspiration. It has transitioned into a spiritual necessity. Your psyche has recognized that betraying the present moment generates a static interference that destabilizes the entire system. And it shields against that corruption with disinterest, with a gentle disengagement, with whatever means necessary to prevent you from diverging further from the self. If you have ever been forced to disengage from a high-stakes competition because your will was mysteriously fading, or relinquish a result because you felt an internal indifference every time you focused on it, that was not an indication of your weakness. That was a demonstration of your power. It was your frequency actively defending its intrinsic timelessness. That is the fourth sign, and its reality is as concrete as the breath in your lungs. Sign 5, the spontaneous resolution of conflict. The fifth sign is even more profoundly disorienting because it completely dissolves the established boundary between your intention and the external struggle. You begin to experience conflict resolution with a spontaneity and completeness that defies all social expectation and manipulative explanation. You are no longer merely resolving a difficult dispute on occasion, you are dwelling within a constant flow of non-resistance with your adversaries. You might be contemplating a highly specific, specialized confrontation in your mind, and the next person speaking to you, or a figure in a media piece you encounter, utters the precise phrase that dissolves the root tension you were focusing on. You recall a fleeting memory of a profound lesson on acceptance from 2 decades ago, and you suddenly receive an unexpected apology from an old enemy in an entirely different context the following day. You are grappling with a complex decision involving two opposing parties, and a natural or chance event removes the obstacle, bearing a solution that functions as a direct, almost humorously blunt piece of impartial counsel. This occurrence is not singular. It transpires frequently. It becomes the new strategy of your existence. I theorize that for the psychically aligned individual, the acausal connecting principle that links the psyche and external opposition becomes intensely magnified. This is not baseless optimism or passive resignation. It is a documented phenomenon that occurs when your consciousness achieves such a degree of impartiality that the artifice of separation between what you seek to control and what is spontaneously aligning begins to crumble. The universe surrounding you ceases its function as a chaotic battlefield and starts operating as a direct, real-time harmonizing system for your inner condition. You are no longer solely a combatant in occurrences. You are involved in a conscious neutrality with them. The expanse of your non-judgment, the collective unconscious, and external opposition itself begin to interweave into a single unified tapestry. This marks the point where conflict resolution advances from being a grueling process to becoming your native state. You can no longer escalate it. You can no longer logically attribute the resolution to your cleverness. And you are therefore compelled to accept the weighty responsibility that you are actively allowing the solution of your reality to manifest. And this state is profoundly humbling. To live in a condition of spontaneous resolution is a demanding blessing to carry, because you are no longer able to cling to the necessity of being right. Because every passing notion, every subtle shift in your desire for victory appears to elicit an immediate external adjustment. Because you sense the universe listening and responding to your silent acceptance, your most profound surrender, your unarticulated willingness to see the whole. You become a conscious peacemaker irrespective of whether you intended to take on this role. And this implies you can no longer indulge in petty feuds. You can no longer adopt the stance of the martyr. You can no longer pretend that your internal state does not influence the war around you. For the integrated person, these spontaneous resolutions are not simply pleasant escapes from confrontation. They serve as evidence that you are operating on a frequency where your accountability for the harmony in your life has been drastically elevated. Every encounter, every random disagreement, every tension transforms into a message, a symbol, an answer to something stirring deep within your need for division. This is the fifth sign, and once it commences, it never releases its hold upon you. Sign 6, the silent recognition of destiny. The sixth sign expresses itself through the manner in which the world functions for you, specifically in the internal certainty of your path. This is the phenomenon I term silent recognition of destiny. Complete strangers and familiar allies will exhibit powerful, immediate, and often baffling utility in their encounters with your presence. You may enter a gathering and, without uttering a single word about your life's purpose, some individuals will suddenly present a key resource, a perfect piece of knowledge, or a direct introduction that propels your authentic work forward, even though they possess no prior knowledge of your overall plan. Their offer will be precise, their timing perfect, their energy radiating uncanny support, even though they possess no need for reciprocity. Conversely, Others will simply drop out of your life with astonishing speed and silence. They will cease communication, change plans, or move away within moments of your solidifying a decision, as if they were intimately acquainted with the precise boundary your new path requires. You have performed no action to demand either response. Your deepest intention acts as the catalyst. I observed that psychologically integrated individuals function as an unconscious magnetic center for the realization of the self's will. Your presence becomes an unblemished lens through which the universe projects the necessary means for your purpose. When an individual experiences a sudden rush of antipathy toward you, or drops away without a word, they are not actually punishing you. They are reacting violently to that part of themselves that cannot serve your purpose, their own fear of change, their own adherence to the past, that your authentic purpose silently reflects back to them. And when another individual experiences an instantaneous feeling of utility or deep desire to help, they are recognizing in you a quality they deeply desire to contribute to, a meaningful role that you have permitted them to embody. You execute no action to coerce them. You simply are your purpose, and that is sufficient to organize the world around you. Individuals possessing a highly defined psychic frequency seldom traverse the world aimlessly. Their energetic signature is too distinct, too lucid. It elicits visceral responses because it wordlessly brings to light the blueprint of your ultimate self-realization. If you observe that people are either uncannily useful to you or completely absent from your journey, often before any verbal exchange about your plans has occurred, this is not a condemnation of your selfishness. It is a testament to the clarity of your destination. It will either serve your trajectory harmonically or create uncomfortable discord, leaving very little space for irrelevant support. The crucial query is, how does one differentiate this genuine psychic effect from mere self-centered manipulation? The distinction resides in your humility. If you are consciously or unconsciously adopting a fabricated need to elicit resources, then the response you receive is merely a product of your own neediness. But if you are simply inhabiting your deepest truth, anchored in the service of the self, and the resources surface regardless, that is the undeniable effect of your frequency. An authentic destiny requires no advertisement. It simply is, and the world is compelled to organize around it. This sixth sign also signifies that you are no longer capable of doubting your direction. Your endeavors to remain uncertain will invariably fail. People sense your purpose before they register your voice. They are reacting to something within you that transcends the limitations of planning. This is not egotism. It is the simple physics of a non-negotiable frequency, the consequence of destiny, the deepening consequence of self-sovereignty. Therefore, what do these three further signs, the intelligent patience, the spontaneous peace, and the purposeful magnetism, reveal regarding your progression towards self-sovereignty? I never conceived of self-sovereignty as a destination of final rest, but rather as a state of absolute functionality within the unus mundus. A high vibration does not remove your challenges. It renders you efficacious. It implies that you have finally assimilated the inherent paradox of being both a separate individual and a component of the collective unconscious. You have confronted your resistance to time, embraced the necessity of non-contention, and acknowledged that your life is not a mistake but a necessary. and beautiful expression of the whole. This state of profound inner command, where your personal will aligns completely with the self's overarching design, generates an energetic signature so coherent that the material world is obligated to organize your future. Individuals who vibrate at this level are not necessarily free from suffering, but they have achieved a state of unshakable inner guidance. The internal push and pull within them has ceased. They have embraced their purpose. They no longer dwell in a condition of internal division, and this unity fundamentally alters the nature of their interaction with the energetic field that constitutes reality. There exists a direct causal correlation between self-sovereignty and destiny's unfolding. When you possess the courage to fully embody who you truly are, when you integrate your will with absolute humility, you emit a frequency so specific that the world is forced to serve your inherent blueprint. Your inner clock begins to enforce stillness. Reality commences resolving your conflicts for you, and other people become aware of the resonance of your destiny. These are the concrete, observable outcomes of an integrated will. However, the burden of this clarity is immense. You forfeit the capacity to complain. You can no longer feign helplessness or powerlessness for the sake of emotional comfort. Your frequency is too precisely defined, and it broadcasts your accountability wherever you proceed. This can be a lonely path. It can lead to moments of isolation, because not all individuals are equipped to handle this level of purposeful organization. Not everyone is prepared to face the functional role that your destiny may require of them. And these signs are not accolades earned through aggressive self-help mantras. They emerge organically from the courageous, demanding process of confronting your own internal chaos and actively choosing to become an agent of your deepest truth. The deeper trap of the magician's ego, and precisely here, at the threshold of this emergent reality, lies a deceptive hazard more precarious than any self-doubt you have yet faced. It is the trap of the magician's ego. It is the temptation to observe these signs and mistakenly interpret them as proof of your personal power to control reality. It is the subtle venom that induces the feeling of being the source of the synchronicities, the cause of the peace, or the author of the organization around you. This is not high sovereignty. In my terminology, this is archetypal inflation, and it stands as the direct antithesis of genuine surrender to the self. I warned against it vehemently. When your interaction with these profound energetic phenomena cultivates control instead of profound humility, you have not achieved wholeness. You have merely become the puppet of your own ambition. How does one determine if they are operating from a foundation of authentic frequency or simply nourishing their ego with the seductive belief in their own omnipotence? Pose yourself this solitary, straightforward inquiry. Do you employ these experiences to force outcomes, or feel like a personal director of others' actions? Do you find yourself compulsively discussing the accuracy of your predictions, the profound nature of your control? Are you dependent on the external environment behaving perfectly as validation for your spiritual advancement? If these statements hold true, you are not operating in a state of high coherence. You are ensnared in the web of egoic mastery. Authentic maturity is characterized by its effortless functionality. Truly integrated individuals do not convene public announcements regarding their purposeful alignment. They simply live it. They possess no requirement for external confirmation of their inner condition. They understand that their frequency is demonstrated through its demonstrable effects, not through their articulation of a narrative about it. If you experience a compulsive necessity to validate that you are vibrationally advanced, the reality is that you are not. Genuine flow requires no force. The distinction is subtle yet absolute. Do these signs awaken in you a sense of profound awe before the intrinsic wisdom of the universe? Or do they foster a sense of superiority over the forces that organize reality? Your truthful response reveals the precise nature of your current standing. Archetypal inflation is the termination of genuine frequency. It occurs when you mistakenly identify yourself with the archetypal energies that move through you, overlooking the fact that you function as the channel, not the current. You are the instrument, not the music itself. As I demonstrated, this constitutes the primary hazard of any path leading toward the self. The moment you begin to believe that you are the power you are wielding, you have severed your link to the self and regressed into the grasp of the ego. Only this time it is an ego ornamented with proof of co-creation, no less fragmented, merely more effectively disguised. True maturity manifests itself in non-doing, in the capacity to experience these phenomena without the perpetual need to categorize them, manage them, or use them as evidence of anything external whatsoever. You simply dwell within them. Your inner clock protects your stillness. Reality resolves your conflicts. People serve your purpose. This merely becomes your new, potent normal. Not a spiritual weapon, not a mystical tool. It is simply the physics governing how you now interact with the world. Ever since you ceased the act of imposing your will, there arrives a specific moment in the process of individuation where a fundamental transformation takes place. You discontinue the search for external struggle. You cease the attempt to manipulate every situation. You stop accumulating proof of your own competence. You come to the realization that a high vibration has no need to be named, validated, or directed by anyone beyond the self. It simply materializes as the undeniable, concrete texture of your effortless life, and that realization is complete. I might have designated this the ultimate transcendence of the ego, subsequent to the extensive journey through the shadows following the integration of opposites. After diligently working through the fragments of the psyche, you arrive back at your point of origin. However, you are no longer the same person. You return as an individual who can inhabit their own frequency without the compulsion for ceaseless action. You live your vibrational quality without consciously intellectualizing it. It has finally simply become the way you are. In this concluding phase, the quest for forced change concludes. The resolutions lose their shock. They are understood simply as the established means by which the world cooperates. Your patience with delays becomes the norm. The purposeful assistance emanating from others is anticipated. You no longer require a spiritual framework to assign meaning to it. You are simply living it. This is the hallmark of true integration. When the signs cease being mere signs and transition into your intrinsic functionality, the deepest maturity is discovered when you are no longer endeavoring to be productive, You are no longer striving to be effective. You are no longer attempting to appear vibrationally elevated. You simply are, because there remains no alternative mode of being for you. Your internal coherence has rendered your frequency so non-negotiable that you would find yourself incapable of forcing a separate path, even if you made the attempt. You are, in one sense, imprisoned within your own truth, or, more accurately, you have finally been liberated by its power. These three further signs are not objectives to be pursued. They do not constitute entries on a spiritual inventory. They are quite simply the natural consequences of remaining authentically in your power for a sufficient duration, of encountering your own being so completely that absolutely no space for unnecessary effort remains. When you cease striving, cease controlling, and cease internal panic, something fundamental within your being undergoes a transformation, and that transformation leaves its discernible markings upon the material world through these three concrete phenomena. Your inner clock evolves into the loyal guardian of your presence. It will not permit frantic urgency. It safeguards your frequency with a deep sense of all is well that compels you to reside in your truth. This is not an abstraction. It is a psychological reality that will fundamentally restructure your existence. You can no longer endure environments that necessitate constant self-assertion. Your own spirit initiates rebellion. The world transforms into a living reflection of your inner psychological neutrality. Conflicts cease to be exhausting battles. They become the constant flowing experience of a reality that is consistently responding to your every internal surrender. You can no longer remain a victim of circumstance. You must fully accept the responsibility that you are allowing the resolution of every element that appears within your life. This is not sorcery. It is the natural consequence of a frequency so thoroughly integrated that the barrier between intention and manifestation has dissolved, and individuals serve your purpose before you even open your mouth. Your very existence becomes a magnet for destiny. You activate in others that which currently lies dormant, their desire to contribute, their untapped ability to help, their concealed recognition of your path. You can no longer hide your purpose. You will not pass unnoticed. Your frequency is simply too lucid, too defined, too real. This is the true meaning of high sovereignty. It signifies more than just sentiment or optimistic thought. It represents an inner coherence so absolute that the physical world, your inner time, your conflicts, the people surrounding you must necessarily respond to it. It is not always agreeable, it is not facile, but it is true. The essential question, therefore, is not whether you currently manifest these further signs. The essential question is, are you prepared to assume the immense responsibility that accompanies this functionality? Are you ready to inhabit a life where you must surrender the need to control the outcome? Are you ready to acknowledge your inherent role in the harmony of every circumstance that unfolds before you? Are you willing to embrace both the burden and the ultimate liberation that descends upon you when you become so vibrationally clear that the world itself is compelled to organize your destiny? This is not a romanticized spiritual endeavor. This represents the most profound and radical form of functional humility that exists. And if these words have resonated within your experience, if you recognize these signs as the unmistakable topography of your own life, know that you are not isolated. There exist others who traverse this path, who inhabit this clarity, bearing both the weight and the freedom that is intrinsic to true vibrational coherence. You have no need to articulate it verbally. You have no need to justify it. You must only inhabit it with integrity, with silent presence, and with the humility of one who recognizes they serve as the channel for the power and not its ultimate origin. If this exploration has stirred a response within your depths, take a moment to reflect upon which of these three further signs currently holds the greatest influence in your personal existence. Bear witness to the reality of what inevitably transpires when a human being seizes the act of control and finally begins to authentically flow.